Good evening. It's 6 p.m. Call the January 8th, 2026 school board meeting to order. And we will start. And first of all, I want to thank all the audience members for attending here. It's a real pleasure for us to have so many folks in the audience, because usually it's usually pretty quiet here. So thank you so much for coming out. I'd like to begin with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Nooksack tribe, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin throughout the San Islands and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. On behalf of everyone here, we want to express our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors, the Nooksack tribe, and their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Next up is flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, I'd like to note that both Danielle and Ed are absent and excused. Next up is approval of the agenda. Any changes from the printed agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion to approve agenda as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And next is recognition, and we're very pleased to have the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office here tonight. And I just gotta let you introduce Sheriff Tinkley.
So last month, the Sheriff's Department reached out, and Sheriff Tanksley and Lieutenant Carb requested the opportunity to come and present an award, a citizens award, to one of our school district employees. So I'll turn it over to Sheriff.
Hi, and thank you. I'm Daniel Tanksley, the Sheriff of Whatcom County Sheriff's Office, and on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, it's a pleasure to be here. Tonight I have Lieutenant Jason Carb with me, and he's gonna kick it off. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks, we really appreciate you letting us borrow a few minutes of your time, your meeting, for our quick award presentation. Thank you for that. We're grateful to be on campus here tonight. It felt like the right place to do this, since the heroic acts that happened were merely a few hundred feet away from us here. So with that, I'll jump right in. I'll start by sharing a write-up on the award, and then we'll present the award to Mr. Justin Tebow. Got that right?
You did.
And
First round.
followed by Deputy Julie Baker. So background, on September 22nd, 2005, about 7:30 hours in the morning, Whatcom Dispatch broadcasted an AED request for Mount Baker High School, located at 4926 Deming Road. The report indicated that a male subject was obviously not breathing and unconscious. The individual was found unresponsive, without a pulse, lying on the track near the stadium. The reporting party was identified as Mr. Tebow, a school teacher who had summoned an AED and was actively attempting to render assistance. Deputy Baker was on patrol as the unit 1 SAM 4. She responded to the dispatch and arrived on scene at approximately 7:34 hours. Upon arrival, Deputy Baker retrieved her AED, proceeded on foot to the track, where she encountered Mr. Tebow and the unresponsive mate. Deputy Baker prepared to relieve Mr. Tebow, but medics arrived and assumed control of the scene. Shortly thereafter, medics requested Deputy Baker perform CPR. She provided life-saving chest compressions for approximately 5 to 10 minutes until she was relieved by medical personnel. The male subject was stabilized, transported to Peace Health St. Joseph Medical Center. As a direct result of the life-saving and heroic efforts provided by Mr. Tebow and Deputy Baker, the male subject survived the cardiac event. He was released from the hospital on September 29th, 2025, and has since rejoined his family and resumed his life. You can't think of a better story than that. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Office has an awards and recognition policy that guides how we honor those who go above and beyond. One of those honors is the Distinguished Citizenship Award, which is given to individuals who provide meaningful assistance to our deputies and who strongly support our mission. Mr. Tebow's actions on this day reflect the very best of our values at the Sheriff's Office: excellence, integrity, and teamwork. And his recommendation was put forth to command, reviewed, and approved. So tonight, we recognize and we're proud to present Mr. Tebow with the Distinguished Citizen Award. Mr. Tebow?
I'm gonna be shameless.
Okay, yeah, no. My mom wants some nice pictures. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh, wow.
And here's the write-up.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah.
And can I make a request?
Yeah,
David, could you get in the picture with me?
yeah, yeah. This is my friend Dave. Yeah, yeah. I hadn't met him before this morning. We still gotta talk about our first meeting. Yeah. You get over that way.
Depends on who we're looking at.
All right, now you
Good to go?
smiles over this way. Great group of people.
Thank you. This whole thing, I just happen to be a guy going for a walk, right? And I find Dave unresponsive. And this whole thing started with me. And it was my students that came. I yelled for students to get help. And my colleagues came with the AED. And the sheriff's deputy showed up. And the paramedics showed up. And the nurses and the doctors at the hospital and the cardiac unit. This was a process. This wasn't just me. And it was everybody trying their best to help this guy out. And he helped himself out too, because he was out there getting exercise. If he hadn't been out there getting exercise, he would have
Bad way to hurt friends, though.
But he had a strong heart, and he still does, because of all these people that were part of this whole process. So thank you very much. This means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. So.
Thank you for all of you attending for this. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's not open.
We got one more to give. So additionally, want to recognize one of our own. The Sheriff's Office Life-Saving Award is presented tonight to deputies who take significant affirmative action during a life-saving effort, in this case, CPR. Deputy Baker's response on that day absolutely meets the standard. And so we award her this award today. With that, Deputy Baker is awarded the WCSO Life-Saving Award. Come on up, Deputy Baker.
You're gonna need to get closer. There you go. You know what, you get in there too.
Okay.
Everybody loves you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Good
Appreciate
job.
it.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to say, well, the only thing I wanted to say is, I just, when I heard the call, I imagined like the lunch lady out there. And I just thought, okay, maybe I have a little bit more training, but Justin was just doing such a good job. I was so impressed, and it really was a good effort.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
As just a final word, Mr. Tebow, thank you for your compassion and for the way you always show up for your community. Deputy Baker, thank you for your dedication to the people of this county and for your servant's heart and what you bring to your job. Finally, to everyone here, thank you very much, Mount Baker School District, for your hospitality and welcoming us to hold this recognition here tonight. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I must say, we're very honored to have you here, and thank you for coming for this special occasion. I served over 30 years on the District 16 Fire Department, and I'm well familiar with the process, and to have something turn out so well is very gratifying.
Thank
And also I wanted to say, for those who've come for the award, we won't feel offended if you leave before we complete the rest of our somewhat mundane business. Although our next recognition is for the Mount Baker High School football team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night. Well, that was.
Narrow it down.
So, before I turn this over to you, Jessica, I did want to say that that the last minute of the LC game was worth the price of admission. This was quite a season, and that was, for me, that minute was, if we needed an AED then, we might. Maybe you might have experienced about 10 times as much as I experienced, Ron. So go ahead and.
Well, yeah, so after the end of a very successful football season, I had an opportunity I was at one of the ASB meetings, and the students were talking, actually this was before the end of the season, and the students were talking about one of the things that they're most proud about this school year is just the success of our football team. And just how that really does just help students held their heads a little bit higher just around, hey, we're from Mount Baker and our football team is doing fantastic. And I know that, ultimately we didn't get all the way to the end of that road to state, but I think we have something to celebrate. And so I just want to invite Coach Leff to come up and just share a little bit about his perspective from the season and just I think it's important to honor something that was really special this year.
Okay. This is Kai Riedesel, one of our athletes on the football team. Has more people lined up here, but they're at basketball practice, and one of them's at a track meet right now, so they're not here at this time. We kind of came back from football camp this summer, and we kind of had a feeling that we had a pretty good group of guys, and more importantly, we had some athletic ability on the team, obviously, but it was more just how the guys were kind of just hanging with themselves and interacting with each other. And this is my 32nd year of coaching football at Mount Baker, and probably one of the top 4 or 5 classes that groups that we've had, just as far as coming up to practice every day and enjoying what they were like. It was no drama. There was, these guys worked together, they supported each other. I don't think a lot of people expected us to kind of end up where we ended up. We played well enough to get to take care of things here. Like I said, the LC game, that was kind of one of the highlights there. Obviously, they were really undefeated at the time, and it was basically for the league title. And you know, last couple of minutes of like I said, at the end of the game, there was a lot of stuff going on. I will say this though, although it wasn't maybe executed the way it should have been at the end of the first half also, but it was the right call in both situations where they got a chance for a play coming back at the end of the half and we started the second half, and then the situation at the end there, which allowed us to get out of there with a W. Didn't make it into the playoffs, and we lost the semifinals to a team that was pretty good, Kashmir. But these guys played well. Guy was the first team all conference lineman for us, and was also one of our 4 guys. We had multiple all conference guys, and we had 4 all-state players selected this year. Guy was one of those offensive line, along with Kel Reardon on the D line, Jet Ross as a defensive back, and Bryce Cooper as a running back. And then Bryce, Jet, and kind of all been nominated. We'll find at the end of the month. I think it's like to play in the Earl Barden 1A, 2A, B all-state football game, which we've had a presence of over the years there. So, but yeah, our guys take a lot of pride in what they do. Representing Mount Baker, we try to, we do things a certain way. We consistently get compliments about how our kids behave. On the road, behind the scenes, when we leave a locker room, it's not a mess. We take care of our stuff, and on the field, we're gonna, our goal is to, we like to play very physical, but we're gonna do it the right way. And so, one of the things that was represents that is the officials give out a sportsmanship award. We won that award last year, and we take a lot of pride in it. For us, that's as important as anything else that we do. So really appreciate that support, and we love playing football here and playing, and supporting and representing Mount Baker. So anything you want to add there, Titan?
No, I'm fine standing here quiet.
Yes, he is. So, but yeah, so that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
guys. All right.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I think I also have recognized that you're creating good citizens. And at the end of the day, that's young people who work well together and carry themselves with honor. And that you've got to feel proud about. I think that's 32 years of creating good citizens is
That wasn't necessarily the goal 30 years ago. I have matured a little bit over the years. So, but no, I said tongue in cheek a little bit, but no, that's extremely important to us.
Yeah,
it really is. You can ask Hayden. I mean, there's multiple times, during the season, at least once a week, if not more, we talk about being good teammates, being good, siblings, future, being good husbands, good fathers, that kind of stuff. That's important to us. That we want to do things a certain way. And we talk about that openly in our program about that kind of stuff.
sure, that's wonderful.
Thanks. All right, you guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
I just see my wife.
So next up is district information, good of the order.
Yeah, I just have a couple things to share. First, I got an email from Principal Matt Durand that this was an email that he received from the head girls wrestling coach for the Meridian School District. And it was something that he said, hey, this might be something good to share with the board. So this was addressed to both Principal Durand and Coach Lepp. He says, my name is Josh Sandstra, and I'm the head coach of the Meridian High School girls wrestling program. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to coach across the map from Clyde Blockley, Laura Torrero, and Natalie Smith. And I wanted to take a moment to share how fortunate Mount Baker is to have them leading your program. Excuse me. At a time when quality coaching is more important than ever, not just for athletic development, but for the growth of young people, these three truly stand out. While they may be modest and understated in their approach, they are among the most inspiring, compassionate, and knowledgeable coaches in our sport. It's immediately clear how much their athletes respect, admire, and care for them, and how positively they're influenced by their leadership. He goes on a little bit, but I just think that's just a really nice thing that we have a neighboring school district recognizing the quality of the coaching in Mount Baker. I wanted to share that. Excuse me. And then the other thing I just wanted to follow with, and I'm sure the board may talk about this when you have your informational items, but we did have the town hall meeting on Tuesday up in Blaine. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Eleanor O'Can, who was our student representative for that. She represented Mount Baker very well, describing just what the reality is for a student here in a district that is struggling through financial constraints. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is information from student representatives. So I'll start with you, Leah.
I'd say the only thing that's really like that people have come to us about is the new Chromebook policy and stuff like that, about coverage that the new Chromebook insurance might cover. So stuff like water damage, just because we live in such a rainy state, was not covered under the Chromebook insurance. So that was something on their mind, like, oh, what if my backpack gets soaked and it damages my Chromebook? Chargers also being a big thing, because I know that when I first got here, I got a faulty charger, and so I had to go switch it out. So those are also big things. I don't know if Gabby has anything else.
Yeah, so we did end up creating a Google form that students could access through email we sent out. It's really just a simple, do you have any questions or concerns that like we brought up with the board or with us that we could help with? And a few questions about, what Baker does well, any struggles financially that a student might have concerns about. Very broad, just to get a sense for what the students are kind of thinking, if anything needs to be brought up. We haven't gotten any responses yet, but when we do, I'm sure next board meeting we'll have a little bit more information. We'll have more data out. But yeah, we're in the ground running.
Good.
Getting going.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much. We're very happy to have you here. Brenna?
Well, I just want to say that that was so hard not to tear up on that. It's heart attacks are a serious thing, and I'm really proud that we were able to, or that TiVo was able to help that man, and that to be recognized by the sheriff's office is really cool. And football, that's coming from a high school where we never ever won a game from like the early 80s until like my senior year of high school. That's pretty fantastic. The Fun Schools Now thing was informative. I kind of am curious about the people that were there. Like, I'm just wondering if it's kind of an echo chamber of everybody that already knows all of that anyway. So I'm curious and thinking about how to get that word out to wider audiences in Washington for people that like don't have students and but want to help out in a different way. So that's just something that's on my mind to think about for that. So that's it.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, I attended Blaine also with Brenna and Russ, and Eleanor, she did a great job speaking. There was 4 other students and they all did great. There was 4 superintendents that said a lot, and Jessica was one of them, and hopefully opened some eyes. We'll see how that goes. That was good. We should have said this earlier. A lot of people don't know about Dave, the guy that got saved. Was just not a guy walking the track. A lot of the students that ran to help aid where he probably coached them, whether it was baseball or football, for a lot of years. So that was pretty good that he survived that and got the attention he needed in the time frame that he did. And I missed swearing in because of some flood stuff. So thank you guys, and I'm looking forward to working with you too. It's going to be really good, I think. So that's all I got.
Thank you. So yes, I also attended the Blaine Town Hall, and Eleanor and Jessica did a great job. One thing that Eleanor added in her remarks that I think really hit home with the state legislators was one of her classes. The number of kids in the class are up to the point where there isn't room to fit all of the desks in, so the last row, the students are using TV trays for desks. And I know Senator Shoemake said she intended to bring that story back to her colleagues in the legislature. So I think the attendance, I felt that there was really good attendance this year, and I also think in terms of the getting the word out. I think on average, each person relates to, I think, has 9 people that care about it, statistically. And people who come out to meetings probably have a few more because they're more socially active. And so I think if you have over 100 people attending, you're actually impacting a lot more people than that in terms of what might be going on in conversations. So I thought it was a really good message to our legislators that, in part, don't go backwards. That we need to keep going forwards, and we recognize this is an off year in the legislature, but we need to keep the pressure on. So I think that was effective in that way. Attended the Board of Natural Resource meeting, and if I were going to be a person who bought lottery tickets, it's the 3rd month in a row that I've won the lottery to be able to address the board. So, they'll get tired of hearing from me, but I try to give you something different each time. But, our representation from our state superintendent of public instruction has been, he's been the only one in the last 2 meetings opposing timber sales that support local school districts. And that's very hard for me to see. And so next time I win the lottery, that's going to be my topic.
Who is it, Rechtel?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there was a sale for, I believe it was Tumwater School District this time that he opposed that. There was one sale that did go through that was for Mossy Rock School District. That one, this month's timber sales for them is 2.2% of their annual budget. 1 month's timber sale, and so it's and half of their current their fund balance went down by $500,000. And these 2 sales represent half of that. So it's the same story that we have played out through other rural school districts throughout the state. Jessica and I met with 2 Whatcom County council members, 1 council member elect, and then John Scanlon, who's council member at large, and representatives from Washington Department of Transportation and the County Road Engineering Department to discuss the Mitchell Road, Baker Highway intersection and safety improvements and those safety improvements. And were you going to cover that anymore later?
I was gonna wait and see what you had to say first.
Okay. Well, I'll start it and then you can fill in. One thing that I was not aware of was the extent that the Nooksack tribe is quite far along in the planning process to construct a roundabout on the easterly end of Deming, so just east of their gas station, and if that actually comes about, then that part of our discussion that I felt was really positive was that could very well allow for rerouting traffic coming on to Deming Road off of that roundabout only, which would allow vacating Mitchell Road, not have that left turn problem there. And for the school district, that's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, since we have property on both sides of Mitchell Road. And if that were vacated, we wouldn't have a road going right through our property. We would have usable property instead, and a greater, better, safe access to school for our students and staff. And so the timing on that, we're gonna try to follow up with some inquiries with the tribe. So I'm not sure what the timing will, if that comes about, what that will be, but that's something to look for on the midterm horizon. The near term, the WSDOT is plans to fairly soon, it sounded like, install improved lighting at that intersection with a bright LED light, so that there'd be improved visibility in the nighttime. And then they also agreed to do a traffic signal study, which is different than an overall comprehensive traffic study. But we will. I think we added in a request for a traffic study to the letter. We'll discuss the letter itself later in our agenda. But I thought it was a very positive meeting. And the one thing that did you get a chance to follow up on whether secondary students are crossing to the library?
I did not yet.
Do you students know if if high school or junior high students cross to the Deming Library during school?
I would imagine they wouldn't, because that library also comes to Mount Baker. So if I check out a book from any library in Wacom, they'll deliver it to Mount Baker,
Okay.
and Mount Baker librarians will deliver it to your classroom. So I imagine they wouldn't, unless I did have a situation which I got a book from there and it didn't come in time for my English class. So I was recommended to go over there. But I would imagine they aren't going over as frequently because of that.
We can follow up on that a little bit. Whether or not if we cross a road, it qualifies for safe routes to school, which then you can put a speed limit and a school zone. If we don't cross the road, it doesn't qualify. So that was part of the discussion. So that's why I rounded up. But I'm not trying to encourage crossing the road. Just wanted to find out. And I think that's all I had on that. Also, I think the other point that we will include in our discussions with the Nooksack tribe is their roundabout is intended to access a health clinic that would be just to the east of Deming Library on the north side of the highway. So that would be most of that area of small trees would be a fairly, from the architectural plans, a fairly large health clinic. So that would be another thing to discuss between us. So I think also I'll pass this around. We have a nice card from the district office staff to the school board. Thank you for that. And it's up to public comments. Has anyone signed up? There's the note. Okay, no one's signed up. Anyone wishing to make comments? If not, we'll go on to the consent agenda. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then superintendent informational items.
Well, I'll start with just a few of my notes about the meeting that we had regarding the intersection. What was a little bit of new learning for me is that part of the reason why that area is not going to qualify for no speed zone is the fact that there's no real pedestrian needs. And that's the trigger for when the state typically comes in and does more. The county did say that they could put in some increased signage if we request it. And so that's something that's in our letter and resolution requesting that signage. And that right now, this State Department of Transportation, I mean, the sense I got is that they don't feel like there's enough traffic here or in that area for a signal. But then it was also clear that they didn't really have hard numbers on that. So it would be nice if they do the study so that we can actually have real data to make before we're making assumptions about safety and about traffic. So we will also, if the letter and resolution is passed tonight, we'll be forwarding that to the county council as well, just to make sure that there's anything that the county can do to help. They're aware of what our request is. Okay, so in addition, I do want to say that I just recognize that January is School Board Appreciation Month. And so at our next board meeting, we'll have some items of recognition from the different buildings. But the work that the 7 of you do is it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of care, because you really do want the best for our district, and we appreciate the good decisions that you're making. Later on in the meeting, we're going to be talking about the facilities fees and some of the policies around that. And so this was something that the district office staff and I have been working on over the last since the last couple months, because there's been some questions, especially from some of our like ASB groups and youth athletic groups, just wondering whether there have been some discrepancies or some groups getting charged, different things. And so we spent time looking at what all of our neighboring districts are using, and came up with a new application form that's in board docs and will be part of the action items later. I do want to say though that because there had been some kind of one-on-one agreements between the district and some of these groups from last year, we are going to honor those through the end of this school year, and that some of these fees for the PTA and youth athletics will kick in after the last day of school this year. That my main purpose in putting together the fee schedule is making sure that, especially for groups A, B, and much of the groups for group C, is that we're not about making money off of these groups whatsoever. We want them to be able to use our facilities. But if we have custodians or other staff that require us to pay them, we need to make sure that we're conveying that real cost back to the user. And so the district, we're being very careful with our money. That's something that we need to be careful with and be just clear and upfront with our community about. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank our school board reps for reaching out to me with some of the questions that students had about Chromebooks, because this is just the last couple of days, there's been a lot of information going out about that. I've also gotten some questions from families already, so I wouldn't be surprised if the board might get a call or an email or two. I do feel that while a change initially can be bumpy, and we're gonna work through that, the purpose of this is that we are creating a Chromebook plan that is sustainable, and that we're keeping our Chromebooks in good condition, and so that our students can have them when they need them. One of the questions that I got from a parent today is, why are you doing this now? Why didn't you do it at the start of the year when the Chromebooks were handed out? Which is an excellent question. The answer is we simply didn't have these things in place at the start of the year. And I believe strongly that when we know better, we do better. And so we're going to try it out, and we'll adjust between now and the end of the school year, and we'll start next school year even stronger. That's all I've got.
Well, thank you. The next up is teaching and learning goal harmony elementary presentation. So if you'd like to come up that.
I would love to sit.
Okay.
All right.
Bring your own chair.
I can do that.
And then Tammy's going to run your slides.
Okay, perfect. While she's getting that up, I'll just start off by saying, again, thank you to the board for having me here. I think it's a really good opportunity for you guys to be able to hear about what's going on at each of our schools. And I've said before too, I think an informed board is a good board. So these opportunities, I think, are really essential, and I look forward to your visit to Harmony in a few weeks. So I want to go over the 3 goal areas for our school improvement plan and give you a little progress update.
Nice picture.
There we go.
You didn't Photoshop it.
No, I took that photo actually. Came out of the building one afternoon when a rainstorm had just passed by.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot pass this moment.
Right.
Yeah. So as I've shared before, we have 3 goal areas for our school improvement plan: increasing attendance, and more specifically, decreasing the number of students who are identified as chronically absent from school. Continuing to focus on the social and emotional needs of our students, and then of course, focusing on academics. And so those are our 3 goal areas. So our theory of action for those goal areas really is that if kids are attending school more regularly and they are feeling safe, welcome, comfortable, a part of our school community while they're there, and they're more engaged in the learning that's taking place, well, then learning is going to increase. So we're really looking at that sweet spot where all 3 of those goals come together. So as far as progress on those, I want to look first at attendance. We have made some really good progress. So this is comparing last year's data to this year's data. So the number of students who are severely chronically absent from school, that's 20% or more school days missed, 1 day per week. Thankfully, there's not very many last year or this year, but we have still reduced that number of students by about 33%. Moderately chronically absent students, kind of the most frequent category of chronically absent students, dropped that by over half. Students who are at risk of being chronically absent, still some significant attendance issues, but nothing that's getting into that highest category. Made some improvement there, and then that leads us to students having good attendance at Harmony, increased by 28%. So really kind of flipping the metrics there and making some good progress. And you could say that, perhaps this is some apples to oranges comparison here. Last year's data was the whole school year. This year's data is only partway through, not even quite halfway. So really, does it match? So next slide kind of illustrates comparing the 2 years side by side. So on the graph on the right, the blue line is our rate of chronically absent students across the 24-25 school year. And then the red line is that same rate in the 25-26. So comparing the similar dates across the 2 years, we are looking much better than we were last year. There's a little bit of an uptick there. It is the start of the flu season. And then you see that last little blip up. That was, even at Harmony, there were students affected by the flood. We did have a number of students missing school during that week, soon after the flood. So hoping to see that come back down. Flu season, of course, is something we can't control. You can kind of see the bump there that happened last year, but we're hoping to keep that line down below the blue all throughout the year. Moving on to our social emotional goal. Not a lot of new news here, but we're continuing to do what we feel is working really well. And that's starting the day in every single classroom with a morning meeting where teachers are working on developing community and communication for all of their students. And then something as simple as a positive greeting at the door. That's a strategy that we've been using for a couple of years now. And think of it as that speed bump as kids enter the classroom, right? Mm-hmm. It's a quick check-in with their teacher. Hey, how you doing? How are you feeling? Teachers are great about just reading the face of a student and understanding like something's up with this kid. Mm-hmm. We need to keep an eye on them today. So we've been doing that at each classroom doorway in the morning and feeling like that's having a really good effect on just building those relationships and having eyes on every single student. And every single day, every kid feels seen, feels heard, keeps kids from slipping through the cracks. And then just in the middle there, not parts of our school improvement plan, but just other pieces that support the social emotional development of our students, our positive behavior interventions and some support strategies across the school, our social emotional curriculum, primarily used in our primary grades, our mental health support staff, and of course our school counselors, all really integral to really protecting and supporting our students. So looking at our next goal area, academics. So I shared with you guys in your first visit, I think it was in October, we are working on increasing student engagement during during lesson time. In this, the kind of overarching strategy we're looking at is increasing student discourse. So student to student talk, moving away from stand and deliver or a sit and get kind of a situation. And the strategy we were focusing on at the beginning, there were 2 days of professional development listed there for Think, Pair, Share. Pretty straightforward strategy, but sometimes maybe not executed in the best way possible. So we really looked at best practices around that and really saw an increase of the practice and the best practice use of the practice in the classroom. And then we moved on from that to looking at math language routines. There's a number of language development strategies that came out of Stanford Center for Assessment and Learning. Shared that with staff over a couple of different professional development sessions. Staff weren't quite as comfortable in understanding, well, how do you create student talk in math? Like I can kind of understand around like language arts, social studies, those kind of naturally lend themselves to conversation, but how do you do that around math? So we shared a number of strategies that teachers have been able to implement into their math instruction. This week coming up, next week, we're getting ready for our next screener. We've got a fall, winter, and a spring screener using the iReady assessment tool. And like with any new tool, we want staff to be familiar and comfortable with that. So we did some sharing out in August, of course, but it's been 4 months since then. So we're just going to do a reboot of best practices around giving that diagnostic screener, as well as how to do goal setting and data work with students so that students have a sense of what their goals are, how they're growing. And then also looking at the MyPath tool, which is an online application that comes right out of their assessment results and provides some structured learning opportunities for them. So going over those with staff. And then looking into the future.
So is it MyPath then, is that at the individual student level then?
Correct. Yep. And part of the iReady umbrella. Yeah. And then looking into the future for the rest of the school year, we've kind of naturally started leaning towards looking at inclusive practices in the classroom. So really wanting to make sure our classrooms are places that are ready for all students to learn, whether that might be someone from our intensive learning center, spending time in the gen ed classroom, or someone with just a typical special education plan, or it might be a highly capable student. But what are we doing to ensure that all students are really included in the learning experience? It's easy for a teacher to kind of shoot for the middle, if you will, but how are we ensuring that we're capturing everybody in that learning experience? That's still under development, but some exciting work to come. And next slide. So just some quick fall reading data. So this is a quick snapshot. We don't have anything in winter. I would have loved to show you some comparisons from fall to winter, but we're not quite ready. We'll be giving that starting next week. So overall placement is that top bar and how students kind of shook out taking the first assessment. Granted, this is the first time they've used this assessment tool, but still it's a look at where they're at. And then down below, the smaller bars kind of show reading strands, whether that's phonics, phonological awareness, vocabulary, or comprehension, how kids scored out. There's similar graph presentations for each grade level and classroom, but this is the school as a whole. We did identify some strengths across Harmony students, looking at high frequency words and their phonics skills, but then needs around vocabulary and comprehension. And interestingly, those are some reading strands that can be identified and addressed through increasing student discourse in the classroom. If they're able to talk about what they're reading, they're practicing that vocabulary in context and really helping solidify their understanding of whatever it is that they're reading. So hoping to see some connection
I think
there.
you brought up the vocabulary last time we met with you at school. And what are some of the instructional practices that teachers have been taking to cover that area in the meantime?
Yeah, that's really, I'd say a teacher by teacher, on a teacher by teacher basis. We haven't been necessarily focusing specifically, yet on vocabulary development skills, other than more broadly looking at increasing that student discourse, academic discourse. During these professional development sessions, I have each time looped back to talking to staff about academic vocabulary and just reminding teachers, if you're not using it, if kids aren't using it, they're not getting it. It's not just enough to put it up on the wall, have a vocabulary board and then move on. You've got to give students time to be using these new language tools. So next slide. So a quick glance at math. So similar overall placement and then some math strand data there. Some minor strengths in the area of measurement and data, and then some needs around geometry and number and operation. Number and operation is really one of our core math strands. So that's certainly something I'm hoping to be leading into with our staff in the future. Next slide. And then this is just an example of an individual student report that iReady generates. So teachers can look at each student's individual report, gives them an overall status. As we do more diagnostic screeners, they'll be able to demonstrate growth over time. And then iReady suggests growth goals, both a typical growth goal as well as what's called a stretch goal. And that the idea of that stretch goal is that if teachers and students are using and understanding their data, that they're able to set lofty goals to stretch towards. And if they're able to strive toward that stretch goal, that over the course of a couple of short years, they're able to close that gap between where they are and their grade level standards. It also shows on the right some strand data, strengths and weaknesses for each individual student, and then provides some next step ideas for instruction for individual students as well. So, and the next slide. So what you guys are gonna see when you come, based on our school improvement plan, I'm hoping for you to be able to see lots of kids in their seats, some great attendance that day, ideally. You'll be there in the morning, so you might see some classroom meetings taking place. And then hopefully during instructional time, you'll get to see some student academic discourse, some of the strategies we've been talking about and practicing in place and happening in the classroom. Knock on wood. All right. That's it. Thank you. Any other questions?
Any questions? I think we're looking forward to being there, and I'm curious to see how in the classroom how you work to things like both developing the vocabulary and then also with the how you work with the students on iReady data, so that I presume that the younger students are going to be able to understand what they're looking at, but
not in the form of that report, no. But kindergarten teachers have a lot of clever ways of helping kids understand where they're at, where maybe they want to be, and then doing some goal setting even with kindergartners. But for the older kids who can understand, a bar graph and such, a number of teachers, have data conversations with their kids, pull them up one-on-one, show them that graph, or before iReady, show them something similar, and have conversations about where they are, where they want to be, and then developing some action steps for how they're going to get there and make that progress.
Well, the neat thing would be if the kid sees, oh, okay, I need some strength here, and then the next time they revisit it, they gain some strength.
It can be a very powerful visual for them to see. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. And by the way, congratulations to you too for your appointment to the board. Really excited. Great opportunity. Yeah, welcome.
So next up are board action items, and we'll start out with letter of support and resolution. I don't actually, on the agenda, we don't have a resolution number.
Oh, that's 4.
4,
Where is it?
it's 4.
4. So it'd be 2025, 26.
4.
4, okay. So if you want to introduce that, I think everyone's had a chance to read it. We did add one more bullet point after our meeting with WSDOT and the county council members.
Yeah, so after the meeting in December, where the board had directed me to put together this letter and this resolution, went back and looked at what the county council had done, so there's a lot of similar language here. But it definitely, the resolution, if we can get that pulled up when you got it, gives a little bit of background around what the issues are at State Route 542 and Mitchell Road, and how this really is a central place for the entire Mount Baker School District community, parents, students, and community members in terms of when we're coming in and out of the Deming campus area. And so the 4 kind of action or items or requests that are in the resolution is that a request that the state looks at completing a comprehensive traffic study for current and accurate data around traffic patterns. That's both the traffic light signal study that the State Department of Transportation had talked with us about, but they said there's also more comprehensive traffic studies that can happen. So we would ask that both of those be considered. Installation of a roundabout or other traffic calming feature. While that might not be in the works because of the roundabout that the tribe is already having in plan, but that's okay. This is a list of multiple things that we'd like to see. A reduction of speed limits and a creation of a designated school speed zone. One thing that the Washington State Department of Transportation representative said is that while typically that's not done where pedestrians, when pedestrians aren't an issue, it's not impossible either. So that's something we'd like the state to take a look at. And then installation of appropriate signage, flashing beacons, and or roadway lighting. Looks like the lighting is something that might happen soon, but I think there are other things that we can do to indicate people are entering a school zone. This is our high school and our junior high area.
Yeah, I didn't catch on the reduction of speed limit below what their traffic studies shows. The county engineers said that they have their standards, but the council can basically override them. And I don't know, we didn't really have that discussion if that's done at the state level at all, but that might be something that by including it in this letter, at least it brings that up. So any questions on either the letter of support or the resolution?
No, I think it's good to get the conversation going and just see if there's something that we can do. And I've been paying more attention while driving through just to kind of see what's out there. And it would be nice to, it doesn't say school zone or school here or anything. So, I mean, it's obvious that there is a school there, but I think that's an interesting thought. Where they do need a light is at the end of this road down here. I could not see where I was turning because all the cars were coming towards me. I couldn't see a thing. So that would be nice. Yeah. I definitely support at least sending the letter and seeing what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's whether it's a pedestrian area or not, it's a very congested area where it almost looks like when we went to your speedway race.
Sometimes,
yes.
And it's where people are coming from different angles with different intents, and people often tend to think of their own intent and not that of others, and that's where you get that collision. So yeah, I think this is definitely a good next step to take. So, with that, no further discussion. Entertain a motion to support for resolution 2025-26 for
And for the letter of support or just the resolution?
well, let's do the resolution and then what we can do. Okay, we'll do and the letter of support
Okay.
based on the resolution.
Motion to approve letter of support and resolution 25-26 board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Boy, Jason, you're getting your.
You're the only one
you're getting
left.
Your workout.
I'm really, yeah.
Great, thank you. So we have a number of policies. Most of them are probably going to be first and final reading, but I think if we can start, let's just do them one by one like we normally do. So we'll start with Mount Baker policy 4260, use of school facilities.
This policy, has very minimal changes from the last time it was adopted in 2012. And you can see at the top there, it's just a few additions because it has been a while since this has been reviewed as a policy. I don't know if there's any typos because Danielle's not here. But other than that, those are the only changes that were proposed in that.
No, yeah. And most the changes are going to be with the fee schedule, which we also approved, but that's the next item.
Cool.
Unless there's any question on this, I would recommend approval of Mount Baker policy 4260 for first and final reading.
Motion to approve Mount Baker policy 4260 first and final reading.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
And I did want to say we did check with Ed and he has gone through all these policies and was in support of those too. I just want to make sure that you realize that. And since Danielle, I didn't get a chance to check with her because I just found out this midday that she was going to miss today's meeting. So, next is approval of fee schedule for that will be the procedure for Mount Baker policy 4260.
So in the policy, it states that the superintendent will set the fee schedule on an annual basis.
Can you make that a little bigger so.
And so, yeah.
There we go.
Perfect.
Can you see it now, Brenda?
I can see it now.
So what I in my conversation with Russ before the meeting, I think what we'll do is January of each year will be the time that we come and we do an annual just update of this fee schedule. So this is a table that was developed after looking at the Blaine School District and Nooksack Valley School District's facility use policies, so it's very similar. And group A that you see there, that is mostly like school groups, like that typically like a teacher or coach or somebody paid by the school district is using the facility. Group B would be nonprofit groups that for the purpose of school fundraising, and these are typically our PTA, PTO, and booster clubs, senior parents. The staff rates only apply to, or having to pay anything for those custodial rates only apply if the event is happening outside of regular duty hours. So if it's like a Saturday event or a Sunday event, because if we are paying a custodian or a cook or somebody else to be there, we're typically paying overtime rates because each of those people have already worked a full week. And so that's just, you know, the fact of how things are in the world, and we want to honor the work of our staff. And so, but we'll work with folks on, you know, kind of identifying the most cost-effective ways to do these things. Group C would be nonprofit organizations or youth service groups, civic community activities. Group D are fee-based nonprofit organizations, religious groups, youth and adult athletic tournaments. And then group E is for-profit organizations or commercial enterprises. And one of the things that the kind of the category definitions calls out with group E is that, well, you know, these groups definitely can reserve the facilities. We would prefer those organizations to use commercial or private facilities, but if on occasion they need to use ours, they can, and it's at a much higher rate for that. So for each of those rates, we're asking that people are charged a 2-hour minimum, and then each additional hour after that 2 hours would be $15 per hour. And then much more explanation than our previous policy or procedure had around what does it mean to have a custodian? What does it mean to have kitchen staff or use the Performing Arts Center? Or, you know, there's wear and tear on our facilities when people are using our facilities. So how are we trying to recoup some cost? And Gaetana and I talked about this, and any money that is generated out of this will go into a maintenance fund that we would use for repairs for our facilities. Nice.
This is one of the few areas where the board approves part of procedures. So any questions on the fee schedule or its implementation? It will take some degree of explanation, and Jessica and I, we had a conversation on how, for example, the PTAs would make it work, those kind of things, and I think it'll take some communication with those groups that use our facilities on a regular basis, but no further discussion. I entertain a motion to approve the facility fee schedule for 2026.
Motion to approve facility fee schedule for 2026.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Board of Director policy updates, and first is Mount Policy 1005, key functions of the board.
So this is an update from, let me find so 2004 was the last time that the board took a look at this. So it's been a little bit. And do you think about how school boards and school districts have evolved, you know, over the years, and especially what WASDA does in developing boards and making sure that each of you has the tools that you need? This is something that's come out of that. I'm not sure if this this was something that you wanted to be first and final on this one, or if this is
I had
something more
thought
that
of it as
we
that.
wanna-
I don't know.
No, I think it just looks a lot like putting it in bullet points, different formatting. And it's all pretty clear, so I feel good about that.
Any other questions or comments on this?
No.
Not entertain a motion to approve Mount Baker Policy 1005.
Motion to approve Mount Baker Policy 1005, first and final reading.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you for adding first and final reading. Catching me.
My job.
Mount Baker Policy 1630, evaluation of superintendent.
Again, this is an update from since the last, well, actually the last review was in 2014. But the evaluation process of the superintendent has definitely been something we've been talking about since this last summer, with me being new to the district and there being new tools that WASDA has given in terms of how superintendents can and should be evaluated. And then we've also have our strategic plan process that I think will form the basis of the superintendent evaluation in a much more meaningful way moving forward. But just looking at some of the categories that should be considered in the evaluation process, and I think we're well on our way to this.
Yeah. But I like adding that to the policy because now it's clear. I think before the blue wasn't in there, so it was pretty short.
Yeah.
Well, it's a reminder in the evaluation process, these are,
Yeah.
make sure you cover your bases on these areas.
Good.
Any questions in the second?
Nope.
Not entertain the motion to approve Mount Baker policy 1630 for first and final reading.
Motion to approve Mount Baker policy 1630 first and final reading.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next is Mount Baker policy 1815, ethical conduct for board members.
So this policy, the main change here seems to be switching from the term board directors to board members. Not a whole lot of change other than that.
Did you find out why that was?
I don't, well, we looked into it. And so according to where, I think it's WASDA that's got the discrepancy. And so in their model policy for 1815, they're saying board members. And in their model policy for 1821, they're still saying board or school directors. So really, I mean, we can leave it as is, or if we want to be more consistent, we can change it.
Our title is school directors. That's what we're elected as. So I think the board, I think of the difference being the board being the school directors coming together to form the school board. So we're members of, the school directors are members of the school board. But this, I think the distinction here, these are ethical standards that apply to each of us individually as we serve on the board. So I would tend to think using the term school director would be more appropriate here because it's referring to us, not the board as a whole, like we do with some of the other policies, but it's each of us individually in our actions on the board.
Yeah, that makes sense. I really am not. I have no one way or the other.
You don't have
so
any opinion
I
either way.
don't feel strongly one way or the other, so.
We could approve it for first and final reading with the editing, changing board members back to directors.
Yeah, I do think it's weird that WASDA always talked about school directors and then to change it to board member, but your thought on it being singular as a singular school director versus board, and that makes a little more sense to me. So, but yeah, we can change it back.
So if we can make, that's, so we wouldn't be able to sign, we wouldn't be ready to sign it. If we.
Take it all back, Tammy.
What do you think, Tammy?
Well, why don't
We
we,
could do this a first reading. on
yeah,
this.
let's just do
Let's do
first reading on this.
reading
Yeah.
and do this next meeting. So we'll just accept it for first reading. We don't have to
Okay.
vote on it. The next step is Mount Baker policy 1820, board self-assessment.
Again, just a few word changes. Yep. I think the part that I like best about this is going from something that's generally accepted to looking at research-based principles. I think that reflects the work that a school district should do overall. Yeah.
And then adding that discussion at the end there.
Yes.
Any questions or comments on this one?
No.
Recommended it. Or I entertain a motion for first and final reading for Mount Baker policy 1820, board self-assessment.
Motion to approve Mount Baker Policy 1820, first and final reading.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Baker Policy 1821, standards for individual board members. I read the two, but now I'm looking at ethical conduct and then standards, so it's some of the differences between
Yes,
standards.
so now we're
and
back,
ethics.
now we're back to school directors.
Right, yeah.
Although in the wording, you'll see each individual board member, so we can. I mean, if you'd like me to, I can reach out to WASDA and ask them why, but again, I'm not really sure. I mean, we can
I
make
don't
our
think it
policies the way
really
we want them
matters.
to. This is a new policy that is recommended by WASDA around the standards for individual school directors. And this was something that Russ, Brenna, and I had originally talked about because it's completely new, that this could perhaps be first and final, but maybe it's something, especially with two board members not here tonight, that maybe we want to just do first reading tonight and talk about it some more.
Yeah, we can do that. Ed had read this and he was okay with this, but like I said, I didn't get any feedback back from Danielle. Let's accept this for first reading and then we can adopt it next meeting based on if we want to do that next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, that would then complete our, that's all the board action items. So we've got meeting schedule. And I will want to note and that our next meeting in January is January 23rd, which is a Friday at 9 a.m. It's I don't know if
It's a little
you
bit easier.
get out of class for that, but you can be absent and excused, I think. So anyway, that's and we are inviting the Nooksack tribe. That
Yes,
meeting.
we'll have, I'm not sure how much of the tribal council will be here, but we'll have members of the tribal council here. We will have the drumming group will be here as well. We have the Nooksack flag that will be installed on the flagpole that we have, and just be an opportunity to build stronger relationships with our tribal neighbors.
Cool. And then I also wanted to highlight special meetings. We have a special meeting scheduled for January 12th.
Yes, but I'll talk about that in executive session.
Okay. We have our community listening session is January 15th at 6 p.m. Our Harmony School visit, January 30th at 9:30. And then we have 4 strategic plan steering committee meetings, all at 6 p.m. on February 9th, February 23rd, March 2nd, and March 16th. And we're billing those as school board activities so that those will be considered school board meetings. So, they won't be, the format won't be us running the meeting, but we will be participating in the meeting. And so it will be, so all board members are not required to come, but welcome, come and encouraged to come. And then
Can I show you something on the website? I just want you and the community to see that when you come to the website, there are these kind of tabs over here to the right. And there is a new tab there at the very top. Look at this. For the strategic plan, and that'll take you to a page that gives the 3 different ways that we're asking staff, parents, students, and community to participate in the strategic planning process.
Nice.
And so the link to the survey is there. This is the same survey that's been given to students already. It's been on Facebook, it's been in our newsletters, our staff have gotten it in emails. The listening session information is there. Steering team information, and the steering team is open to anybody. So I don't want anybody thinking, well, I'd like to participate or I want to get involved. I don't know how. The way you get involved is by clicking on completing this form. And you just sign up, and it's just a matter of letting us know what your name is and how to contact you, and we'll get you on the list to participate in the work. There's a little bit more of that information, short and sweet.
That's awesome.
Easy. So yeah, that's there, and we hope
And
folks.
board members with that, you don't need to fill this out because you're already,
I
love
love filling out forms, Russ.
if you want to fill it out, you go ahead.
So yeah, I encourage folks to go to the website if they'd like some more information, that one-stop shopping there, without a lot of clicks. So that you can get to
And
it.
just seeing it scroll by, so that the community listening session is here. And the other 4 steering committee meetings are in the high school library.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, this being the first time I'm doing something like this with the district, I'm not sure how many people to expect for that listening session. But you know, I'll have a plan for a lot and a plan for a little. Yeah. We'll go from there. Sweet.
Well, if we need to, we move to the field house.
Yes.
Okay, that completes our regular business. We will adjourn to executive session, and it's still at 60 minutes.
Probably not, because with 2 of our board members not being here, I know one of the topics was to discuss the superintendent evaluation. And we won't get into as much depth as maybe we would have if the whole board was going to be there.
So probably 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, 30 minutes, we'll call it 30 minutes, so we can sign tonight's documents first, and then we will reconvene at the end of the executive session, and with no decisions to be made following the executive session. Thank you.
She called me
Okay,
like 2
good.
weeks ago already.
Keep it if you want, but we can.
And asked me, and I
I
already
was like,